a happy household. A man, a woman, and their loyal dog. But when tragedy strikes, this family is taught the meaning of the word love from the other side. That's not a word, that's a sentence. Well, they learned the meaning of the sentence. And then we take a look at the story of a hideous wizard that currently stalks the world. Is it possible there really is a sorcerer that can use beetles, bugs, and all sorts of creepy crawlies to blow you up from the inside out? Today on Dead Rabbit Radio. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Dead Rabbit Radio. I'm your host, Jason Carpenter. I'm having a great day. I hope you guys are having a great day too, and I hope you guys have some awesome plans for the weekend. I don't. I'm prepping next week. We're going to do a bunch of viewer or listener submitted stories. A lot of stuff that you guys have sent me over the past weeks and months. I'm trying to put together a little theme week because I've gotten some really great submissions. So that's what I'm going to be working on, and then I'm going to be opening a bunch of magic cards. But we got a lot of good stuff happening on this episode as well. Running into Dead Rabbit Radio Command, everyone watch your back and wear your Dune mask, because running in on all fours into Dead Rabbit Radio Command with the dust storm behind her, everyone get on your feet and give it up for Feral Desert Barbie. Woohoo, yeah, we're all clapping, we're all coughing. I was too busy clapping to put on my Dune mask. Feral Desert Barbie, longtime supporter of the show. She does get the word out about the show all the time as well. She's constantly posting about it on her social media, so really, really thankful for that. That helps out so much. And because of that, Feral Desert Barbie, you are going to be our captain, our pilot this episode. You guys can't support the show financially, that's totally fine. Just do what Feral Desert Barbie does. FDB. Tell your friends, tell your family, tell everyone you know. Dead Rabbit Radio is your favorite paranormal show. That is how you can help the show grow. Feral Desert Barbie. Let's go ahead and toss you the keys to the, of course, Dead Rabbit Dune buggy. It's parked at her house. Everyone climb on board. As we leave behind Dead Rabbit Radio Command, Feral Desert Barbie, fire this bad boy up and take us all the way out to a house in the suburbs. Driving all the way out, kicking up dust the whole way, out to this house in the suburbs. We're about to meet this young couple. We don't have their real names. We're going to call the wife Natalie. We're going to call the husband Ethan. And they have a dog, a pet dog. We'll call her Daisy. Ruff, ruff. They're a happy family. Having a lot of fun. Daisy, come here. Yeah, let me pet you. Let me pet you. Rubbing Daisy behind the ears, making her leg jump around and stuff like that. And then, like, you're out throwing frisbees at the dog. You're playing catch. You get, like, a big ball that's too big for the dog's mouth. It always looks so uncomfortable, but people throw those big old softballs and the dog's all slobbering over it. I was like, dude, imagine if you were trapped. And listen, I'm not saying that people who have pets are slave owners. I know there is that argument that there's something unethical about having pets. But imagine if you, imagine, let's not use the word trapped. Imagine you were adopted against your will by a random family, and sure, you do love them, they feed you, but every day they go, let's go play catch. And the ball they throw to you is uncomfortably large for your hands. That doesn't sound bad at all. I get free food, don't have to pay rent, I get unlimited belly scratches. And the only thing I have to do is catch an uncomfortably large ball. They just throw a basketball to me, and I go, that's it? This is all? Okay, well, anyways, the dogs always look uncomfortable with a ball in their mouth. But dogs do seem to love it, so who am I to judge? Daisy, Natalie, and Ethan, they're having a good old time. But, unfortunately, this is a paranormal podcast. This is a ghost story, so one of those three are going to die. Got your fingers crossed, you're like, oh, please don't be the dog, please don't be the dog. Well, unfortunately, Daisy dies. We don't know exactly why. Old age, giant ball-related injury. We don't know. But Daisy dies, and that really, really hurts Ethan and Natalie. Like, crushes them. It was a member of their family. This was posted online by Natalie. She wrote this up about Ethan and how he was dealing with all of this stuff. But let's go ahead and delve into this. And, Ethan goes, Daisy had been with us for so long and been part of our life for so long. We had her dog bed. Like, after she passed, I saw that there and I thought, I can't move that. Like, that's a part of our life. It's a memory. I always remember looking down and seeing Daisy sleeping on her dog bed, dreaming of big balls in her mouth. But now she's catching unlimited balls in heaven. He didn't say that part. We don't know. He didn't say that part. But he might soon by the end of the story. He's looking at the dog bed and he goes, I can't get rid of that. I can't even move it. I just got to leave it there. Well, a week passes and that dog bed remains in that room empty. And he's talking to Natalie about it. He goes, I can't move it. Like, it's just too hard. And she's like, no, I totally understand. That's been a fixture in this room for so long. Let's just leave it. And then another week passes, and another week, and another week. And it remains there for a year and a half. And Ethan is hit the hardest by this. He really, really, really is having a hard time getting over the death of Daisy. And even he recognized that. It's not like it was a cakewalk for Natalie, but Ethan realized he was not only taking it extremely hard, he wasn't able to let go. He wasn't able to move on. But despite the way that his heart was wounded, Ethan and Natalie had discussed, maybe we should get a new dog. And they did. They went and got a dog who we will call Sheba. Who's a good dog? Yeah, you're a good dog, Sheba. You're a good dog. Let's take Sheba home. So the very first day they took Sheba home, they're walking her through the house, and Sheba gets in the general vicinity of Daisy's dog bed, and she completely stops. When Ethan and Natalie are looking down at Sheba, Sheba's just frozen, kind of, looking in the direction of Daisy's old dog bed. Sheba then begins to walk backwards slowly, not taking her eyes off the dog bed. She stops, and then begins to bark at seemingly nothing. Ethan and Natalie are kind of looking at each other. They look down at Sheba. Sheba's barking and then begins to do these, what's described as playful little movements. Like lifting their legs up or doing a little dance or whatever dogs do, sashaying from side to side. Just kind of like hopping around like she wanted to play with a new dog she just met. It was really weird for Natalie and Ethan to see. I'm sure they were thinking, well, maybe the dog bed still has the scent of an old dog on it, but like, what? I'd understand why she would back away from the bed, but why was she barking? Why was she then jumping up and down, like playing with another dog? That was the only interaction they saw Sheba have with the dog bed as far as like doing that little dance. And Sheba just kind of continued walking around the house, and for the next week was getting used to the place. This was going to be Sheba's new home. But for that entire week, Sheba avoided the dog bed. She wouldn't go anywhere near it. Until one day, Sheba was walking around the house and she walked right over by that dog bed like it was nothing, like it was just any old piece of furniture, and continued to walk around and just kind of make her way around the room and around the house. And Ethan goes, that's weird. Like, what changed? And Sheba continued to do that. After a week of living there, Sheba no longer had a reaction to that dog bed. Good or, I don't want to say bad, but good or concerned or worried. Because playing with whatever was at the dog bed is one thing, but then after that, avoiding it for the next 7 days seems odd. Why? If it was a playful spirit. After a week, Sheba's totally fine. Has no problem walking over by the dog bed. And the day after that, and the day after that, and the day after that, the house is Sheba's to share with her human roommates. And that's when Ethan realizes something. He goes, wait a second. How long has it been since Sheba's been fine with the dog bed? At this point, it's been a couple weeks, maybe a month. That first week she was here, she was kind of weirded out by it, but past 3 or 4 weeks, she's been totally fine with it. And he realizes that for that same period of time since Sheba had been totally fine with Daisy's old dog bed, Ethan realized all of his depression and sorrow and heartache and pain over Daisy's death had been lifted off of him. He goes, I couldn't put my finger on it when it happened, but once, like the second it happened, but once I thought about, hey, wait, she was totally fine with that dog bed. Oh, wait, I'm actually fine with Daisy moving on as well. When he could look back at that moment. Natalie ended this by saying, quote, he wonders if maybe part of her spirit was still lingering, and that's why he couldn't move on. I'm skeptical, but I want to believe, unquote. And that was posted underneath the name Warrior White. It's a fascinating story because what's interesting about it is it doesn't follow a traditional narrative as far as we know about stories like this, ghost stories and this grief and everything. And I don't want to spend too much time peeling it apart because honestly I could probably talk for another 30 minutes about this story. I find it's very simple, but it's pretty complex too. And what I really want to focus on is this idea of, it's funny because it doesn't fit the traditional story, a ghost story. Really what I think is, yes, Daisy's spirit was there for a year and a half. And because her spirit was there, it was killing Ethan. Not physically, but emotionally. And why would a ghost want to do that? Why would the ghost of this dog who loved Ethan, why would the ghost stick around if he knew what he was doing to him? So in a traditional ghost story, that wouldn't be what happens. But what's super interesting is, if you think about it, is that is what happens in real life. Forget the ghost and turn Daisy into a real person. Sometimes we stay around somebody, whether it is a relationship, whether it's a friendship, whether it's a workplace or whatever, and we are inadvertently making their life worse. And it could be us doing it to someone. You could think of an example where someone was doing it to you. Where by them being around you still, I think the best example is of a breakup in a relationship, but then the significant other is still either in the friend group or in the workplace. And maybe they still do want to be friends, but it actually hurts you more seeing them outside of the relationship. You go, yeah, sure, let's do the just friends thing because we are really cool together and maybe we can just be friends. But it actually wounds you so deeply every time you see a Facebook post about something she's doing or someone she's seen, or you overhear some of your mutual friends talking about who she's dating now. There's a million different variations of this, and I'm sure you've gone through it. I've gone through it. And I'm sure sometimes we've been the other person who is making things more difficult. And we may not necessarily know it, but I think for the most part, people go, no, let's just be friends. And they actually do want to, because they want to maintain that connection, but something's changed and now they're going into a different relationship or a different job or whatever the case may be. And it deeply wounds you. They think they are continuing something forward, but it actually hurts you more than if it was just a clean split and you never saw the person again, or didn't run into the person for 13, 20 years and bumped into him at a supermarket or an airport or something like that. That's real life. That's what's so interesting about this story. That's real life. I do believe Daisy was there for a year and a half, and I do believe Daisy loved Ethan. But Daisy didn't want to leave. And she didn't realize how much that was impacting him. She just didn't realize it. Because humans don't realize it. Why would an animal? I would say that an animal spirit, I don't know if they necessarily have a human level consciousness, but I would imagine they're more aware of things than just your average dog. But still, humans make that mistake all the time. She probably thought Ethan needed her, but by staying there, she was actually hurting Ethan more. And when Sheba came home, her initial reaction makes you think, oh, this is going to be a good interaction. There is a ghost dog there. Forrest Whitaker is shooting up an ice cream truck just down the street. But in the house, you have a ghost dog, that's Daisy, and then you have Sheba, who's a real dog, and they're kind of playing with each other. You're like, oh, this is going to be interesting. Daisy's going to show her around, show her where the big ball collection is. But that's not what happens. Like, they have that initial kind of like testing each other, playing, And then Sheba totally avoids the bed, which makes me think Daisy was like, no, you gotta stay away. This is my bed, this is my house, and these are my people. And it almost seems like after a week, Daisy kind of realized that, I don't think she ever realized how much she was hurting Ethan, but I think she realized, well, they got a new dog, and I am dead, right? I am dead, I'm aware of that fact, and maybe it's time for me to move on. Maybe it's time for me to go where all dogs go, to heaven. So, after a week of seeing Sheba and seeing how Sheba was interacting with them and all of that stuff, Daisy passed on into the afterlife. It's a fascinating story, though, right? Because it doesn't fit the general narrative of ghosts sticking around to help us out. This ghost was hurting him. And I also think it's interesting, too, that it's not like he woke up one day and he goes, all my grief is gone. Here it is, September 22nd, Griefless Day, yay! No, it's like he looked back and goes, wait a second, I haven't been super depressed for 2 or 3 weeks, however long it was, before he came to this revelation, and then he kind of worked it back, and he goes, that's the same time that Sheba started acting normal around the bed. He was kind of able to connect the dots. So I think Ethan's spot on. It's fair, like Natalie said, I'm skeptical, but I want to believe. That's totally fair. Everything I said is based off of what she wrote, and there could be a million different reasons for it. I actually can maybe only think of 2. Ghost, or the dog bed smelled like Daisy. You could say that the dog bed smelled so much like Daisy that Ethan was breathing it in. He's like, oh, Daisy. Actually, that's a good skeptical answer. It's not a bad one. He's constantly breathing in Daisy dust. It's getting into his nose, and he's constantly reminded of Daisy, which makes him even sadder and sadder and sadder. But then when the new dog shows up and is walking around for a week, basically gets rid of all the Daisy dust, and now he's just smelling 100% pure Sheba. And after a couple weeks of inhaling that, he got over his grief of Daisy. That actually, what's funny, that's a 100%, like, oh, Jason, who is this guy? Is this Superman? His only Superman power, though, is super smelling. People do have different senses. People have stronger senses of smell and stronger senses of hearing and eyesight and x-ray vision and flying. All sorts of crazy people out there with crazy powers. But yeah, I'm wondering if that actually was it. If he had thrown the dog bed away, if he had moved the bed in the first week or two, he goes, I can't even look at that bed. It makes me so sad. And he moved it. He might have gotten over it a couple weeks after he moved the bed away. So fascinating. I didn't even think about that. I 100% was like, I think this is a ghost story, but this might actually have a logical answer. So, yeah, I really like this story. And it's funny because if you listen to early episodes of Dead Rabbit Radio, I don't know for sure, but I'm pretty sure in that first 50, I made the comment, I don't think animals have souls. And that was a belief that I had for a long time. Not like I think it's okay to hurt animals, not like I think it's okay to torture animals or anything like that. I just believed that when animals died, they simply disappeared. I mean, the carcass was still around, of course, but they had no soul. So, it's not... No, all dogs don't go to heaven. Basically, the cartoon was a lie. Also, Atlantis is not truly the lost city, and there is no treasure planet. But that's something I've come around on. And the reason why, it's because I always thought, well, humans have souls, but animals don't. It just doesn't really make sense to me. The show has changed my mind. And only because I've been researching so many paranormal stories, and so many of them involve animals, this is a belief that I've actually changed over the course of the show. I actually do believe now that on some level, animals have some sort of soul. They have some sort of connection to something. I don't believe that they're actually soulless. And again, I'm not saying that they're not beautiful. I'm not saying that we have to treat them with kindness, souls or not. It was just something that I figured, if they died, then it was sad. I'm not saying I would do a little dance, but, generally when you mention that an entire species is soulless, you have to make sure people realize you're not a monster. But yeah, over the course of researching so many paranormal stories over the past 7 years, because I research everything now. Before I used to just research on my free time things I was interested in. Now I'm reading stuff that I never would have read before. I think it's broadened me out for sure, and I do believe animals have souls. I do believe that something is left when they're dead, which is a comforting thought to pet owners. And listen, it's a terrifying thought for meat eaters, for sure, isn't it? Like, you can imagine those slaughterhouses must just be full of moaning spirits. Those places must be incredibly haunted, because if dogs have souls, cows have souls. And if cows have souls, ants have souls. You know, I don't even like flicking bugs around. I do, right? If there's a big spider coming near me, or something like that, if I'm seeing like cockroaches and stuff like that, you gotta kill them. You gotta kill them on sight. And I feel bad because it's a living organism, but that's just disgusting. I mean, listen, I see some guy on the street, it's like, oh, that shirt's dirty, psh, I'm gonna shoot you. Ah, you're so disgusting. You know what I mean? Yeah, if they don't have a direct soul, it could be that they have a connection to something. So I don't know. It's a very interesting topic. It's something that I was very firm on before, that animals do not have souls, and now I've come around on that. So that's one thing that I take away from the show, that my viewpoints have changed on. That's a pretty important topic, honestly. Do animals have souls? Feral Desert Barbie, dust your hands off as I throw you the keys for the world-famous Carpenter Copter we're leaving behind this house. Why don't you fly us all the way out to the Philippines? We're headed all the way out to the Philippines, and we land, and we're walking around the jungle. There's an airport right over there. I don't know why she landed us right in the middle of the jungle. There's parrots in the trees. Polly want a cracker? Polly want a cracker? There's a panther nearby. You're like, Jason, these are really good sound effects. Did you get a soundboard or something? Did you invest some of that Patreon money to get a soundboard? We're walking through this jungle. We hear a monkey. We're looking around, man. There's a bunch of wildlife around. And you're like taking photos and stuff. And I go, guys, put the camera down. Put the camera down. I know we're in this beautiful, lush place full of soulless creatures, but put the camera down. We have to be aware of all threats around us. When you go with the panther? And I'm like, no. Well, the panther is quite the threat, but let's just not worry about that right now. We'll worry about that on the way back to the copter. No, that, and you see me pointing at a big leaf on a plant, and on that plant you see a fly, a big fat fly, walking on his big fat fly legs. You're like, what is this, Jurassic Park? Okay, it's not that big, but I have a magnifying glass. I'm like, wow, it's a monster. Look how big it is. It's a normal sized fly, but a little fatter than normal. It's walking around. I'm like, that is the most terrifying thing in this jungle. And you go, how? And I go, watch. You doubt me, just watch. We're watching this fly, and then all of a sudden the fly kind of starts looking around, and then he starts flying. He leaves the leaf. And I'm like, let's follow this fly through this dense jungle. And if I lose you, well, I hope you have some sort of navigational survival skills. We're running through the jungle, we're following this fly, and eventually we see more flies joining up with it. Like, we see a fly coming in from this angle and a couple flies coming in from above, and soon there's like a squadron of flies, maybe 30 or 40, flying through the jungle, and we're running through the jungle after them until finally we find ourselves in a clearing on the outskirts of a town. And there's a guy walking down the street. He's carrying like a bag of groceries, and he has a milk jug in the other hand, and he's kind of walking down the street. And the flies are headed right towards him. And I go, stop, guys, watch. The man's wearing shorts. Pastel shorts, to be exact. And they're pretty high. They're like mid-thigh shorts, so they're kind of high. Swimming trunks, they look like, but shorter. It doesn't matter what he's wearing. Like, does it have something to do with the flies? Does it have something to do with anything? No, I'm just creating a visual. He has pastel pink shorts that come about mid-thigh. The flies are flying around, and then we watch them fly under his shorts. Like, not like between his legs. They actually fly up into his shorts. That's a better way to put it. They fly up into his shorts, and the man begins screaming and violently clawing. You're like, damn me, Jason. No, this is terrifying. We're watching this man in the middle of the street drop all of his groceries because he begins screaming and violently clawing at his anus as 40 flies burrow their way in. I mean, think about it. I could just end the episode there. You're like, oh, that's terrifying. Whatever else comes after this will not be as scary as that. The idea of 40 flies flying up your butthole, which is not something I'm making up. This is a real power. Wait, Jason just having some crazy heat-fueled meltdown? No! This is real. I had a fly up my nose once. I was having a great day before that. I remember walking out of my house. I was like in 5th grade. And I can't whistle, but I was in a whistling mood. I was in such a good day. I had a little pep in my step, and I made it maybe 20 feet outside my house. And a fly hit my face and then flew up my nose. And it flew up so high I could feel it vibrating like right beneath my eyeball. It was horrible. So imagine 40 of those in the second tightest part of your body. Like, second? How big are your nostrils? Buttholes are extremely tight. You're like, is there a photo of this guy? How big are his nostrils? Okay, the whatever. The second or first, or maybe it's tied, part of your body, 40 flies up there. And that is the problem that people in the region, specifically in the Philippines, there's a group of people called the Bicol culture. And they're also known as Bisayan speakers. It's this culture, it's this subculture in the Philippines. And in this culture, they have a ton of cryptids and witches and sorcerers that they believe in that I've barely scratched, no pun intended, the surface as we're watching this man scratch his butthole furiously while making puns. But anyways, the Bicol culture in the Philippines have a name for a sorcerer that can command insects. They're known as the Mambabarang. And the way that these witches work is they're bug witches, which is super sinister because they're everywhere. If someone's like, oh, I need to make a voodoo doll, you're like, good luck finding cloth in the middle of nowhere. They're like, I'm wearing a t-shirt, I can easily get cloth. You're like, oh, sorry, well, good luck finding. You're like, what else do you put in a voodoo doll? As you feel needles going into your heart, you're like, oh, I guess she already made it. But bugs are everywhere. And what they do is if they have any piece of you, even a single strand of your hair, they can enact a deadly, or if not deadly, extremely painful spell on you. For example, one of the things they'll do is they will take one of your hairs and they'll tie it to a bug or a worm. And anything you do to that bug or worm, you'll feel it. So it's like a voodoo bug, which sounds terrifying. I mean, I don't have 8 legs. I'm like walking down the street. It's like, oh, I don't feel anything. I really did piss off that Mambabarang by mispronouncing her name multiple times. Oh, I don't feel anything. And she's like flicking the spider's legs, and she's like, which one? Which one does he have? Because it has 8, right? So you can only flick 4 of them, my arms and my legs. And she's like, oh, yes, it'd be like trying to figure out how to work a puppet. But once you did, my arms started hurting and stuff like that. I'm like, oh, why do I suddenly want to give birth to millions of me? Oh, I mean, how far does it go? I end up hanging upside down from the middle of my bedroom, spitting out an egg sack full of tiny Jasons. How far does it go? And if you're a worm, right? She's like, oh, he doesn't have any arms and legs. I'm just all doing a little dance in front of the witch. It's like, oh, what are you going to do? She snaps my neck. I go, oh, yeah, I forgot. A worm has a head. One of the things, though, that they're most known for, I mean, that's basically like a voodoo doll. And I don't think if she squishes the spider, you die, but it can inflict pain on you. But one of the things that they're most feared of is what I used for my example. They will take insects and they will train them. They're not like a flea circus. They like use magic to make them attack people. They have total control over insects. And what happens is when these insects enter your body, it's not just the fact that you have a blowfly in your butthole, but you'll also develop a bunch of butthole-related diseases. Because there's... yeah, Jason, there's a giant living bug up there. That's not even magic. If you took a worm and slid it behind someone's eyeball, they're going to experience eye pain, blurry vision. That has nothing to do with magic. has to do with the fact there's an earthworm in their head. Yeah, but this one is magic. This one is magic. In the middle of the night, you're sleeping, and a bug they controlled, let's say they had a friendly flea of theirs. A Mambabarang has this flea fly to you, and it'll crawl underneath your eyelid. And then you'll develop pink eye, and blurry vision, and eye pain. It's itchy, super itchy. You're like, oh, why are my eyes so red? Constantly itching it. There's a little flea sitting on your eyeball. Every time you look in the mirror, he hides. Wherever the bug crawls, you get those diseases. You have a bug crawl underneath one of your fingernails, you get a hangnail. That'd be a tiny bug. And that'd be fine, right? It's like, oh no, I have a hangnail. Let's put a band-aid on it. No big deal, the bug's trapped. It's like, ah! There's a lot of places where a bug can go that would be bad. You're asleep late at night, and a pincher bug is walking right to your ear and then goes, because that's my pincher bug cousin, he's coming, he's not magical, he's going to crawl into your ear anyways. I'm going to crawl down your throat. This magically controlled pincher bug crawls down your throat, and then you develop strep throat. Wherever these bugs go, you'll get illnesses. And you go to the doctor and you're like, doctor, I don't know why. My eyeball itches, I have a sore throat, my butthole's leaking. Can you help me out? And the doctor's like, well, I will try. That's a lot. You're my first patient this day. 8 in the morning, it's a little too early for this. The doctor's looking at you, and he goes, well, I don't know what causes any of this stuff. You checked you out for all the eye stuff. It's totally fine. The anal leakage is devastating, but I don't know what's causing it. And what was the other one? It's like after anal leakage, you're like, whatever other disease you're complaining about. You have goiters? I think we need to get the anal leakage fixed first. No doctor can help you because it's magically caused. Now, all of this stuff would be bad enough. All of this stuff is like a torment type power the Mambabarang would have. And these are traditional wizards and sorcerers and witches that have been around for a long time, but they are still active today. This is something that people in the area fear. They're either going to accidentally piss one of these guys off, or someone's going to go to one and say, hey, I want you to cast a curse on my rival for this young woman's heart, just causing pain and torment. And that is very traditional magic. But the Mambabarang have taken it a step further. They do all that stuff. But Mambabarang, this is insane, right? Imagine if you had that power. You could use it to make money. You could use it to right wrongs. You could use it for your own greed. You could use them for all sorts of purposes to torment people. But the Mambabarang have taken it a step further. Some of them, at least. Most of them, from what it sounds like. Instead of having maybe a collection, I'm sure at this point they probably would have like a collection of different caterpillars and ants and all of these things, spiders and night crawlers and all of that. Mambabarang begins to step up the game by keeping a steady supply of carnivorous beetles. And they feed part of the ritual is they feed these carnivorous beetles a ginger root. And then when the ritual is ready, the Mambabarang will whisper to the beetles the name of the victim and what they want to happen. So now it's not flies going up your butthole and giving you hemorrhoids, giving you constipation and or diarrhea. It's carnivorous beetles. So not only do you have hemorrhoids and constipation and diarrhea, you're also getting eaten from the inside out. There's a big beetle taking bites. I mean, you're like, well, maybe he'll eat the hemorrhoids first. Beetle's like, oh no. He's like, well, they are extra tasty. He goes, oh, they look like grapes. They look like grapes, and I love grapes. But here's the thing. I've never had hemorrhoids, but I imagine having hemorrhoids are painful. I imagine someone eating your hemorrhoids are 10 times more painful. 10 times more painful. I just imagine that. I don't know. But anyways, the carnivorous beetles will go inside of you. Not only will they inflict this pain, they'll actually begin to eat you from the inside out. And you'll die. You'll die. You can't really live that long if something is in there eating your lower intestine and your butthole and all of that stuff. And the constipation. You're like, oh, that would be the worst. You're like, oh. Can you at least eat me another butthole? Can you at least eat another tunnel so I can poop? Beetle's like, mm-mm. Anyways, Feral Desert Barbie's like, I'm not recommending this show anymore. Definitely not recommending this episode. You die. And the reason why, so imagine if you're in this culture, someone's like, oh, I have horrible hemorrhoids. Oh, it's so painful. I haven't been able to poop in 2 weeks. And then they fall over dead. You'd go, wow. He must have been really constipated. I don't know if anyone who's just died of constipation before. It must have been really blocked up. Man, poor guy. Those hemorrhoids must have been intense. But then as you're standing there looking at the body, a bug crawls out of his butthole. And you go, oh, it was a Mambabarang. He was constipated. But that's not why he died. There was a big beetle in him, eating him from the inside out. Poor guy. There's an even worse. It can't be worse than that. It can't be worse than a bug eating its way through my butthole. Well, you maybe. I would argue it's at least equal. Maybe it's not worse, but it's equally bad. The Mambabarang can also make what is the equivalent of a voodoo doll called a pamaham. It's pronounced differently in different locations, and I probably got it wrong for every location, but they basically create this little doll, and what they do is they put bugs inside the doll. They're very bug-specific witches, which is unique. I don't think I've ever come across anything like this before. They're all about the insects. They have this little doll of you, and they put all these bugs inside of the doll, and then the Mambabarang goes, okay. What happens is, as the bugs are eating the inside of the doll, across town, you're hanging out at your house, playing cards with your friends. Aces high, jacks or nothing. And everyone's like, oh man. And you collect all your money and you're like, that was a pretty good streak of luck I just had there. Good old Lucky Me. That's my nickname. Lucky Me. And then you go, ow! And you see a boil start to appear on your arm. And you go, oh, what is that, like an ingrown hair? Is that like a pimple on my arm? But you don't think much about it, right? Everyone gets a boil every once in a while, right? I mean, ingrown hairs at least. So you go about your business, and a couple days later, it's starting to get a little bit bigger and bigger, and you're like, oh, I should probably get that lanced. I should go to the doctor. And you're taking off your pants one day, and you look down, and there's a boil on your calf. And you're like, what? Gross. And you're touching it, and you can feel it. It's milky underneath. You're like, I gotta get that one lanced too. What do I have the boil on me? And then one day you're outside playing one-on-one basketball. You're like, you don't have a shirt on. You're like, who's going to play defense? Who's going to be up on me? People are like, oh, gross. And you're like, why? And they go, you're covered in boils. Your back has a bunch of boils on it. And you're like, what? You're like, oh, that's why it's been so hard to fall asleep. Thought I was sleeping on a waterbed. But no, you have a bunch of milky, pus-filled boils on your back. And you're like, what? You're all bouncing on a wee. It's like having moon boots on your back. There's so much pus in them. Whee! You're slowly but surely getting covered with these boils all over your body. And at a certain point, you're going to go to the doctor. Probably after the second boil, you probably want to wait until you look like the Michelin Man. You're more boil than human at this point. You go to the doctor and you're like, Doc, I have all these boils on me. What can you do? And the doctor's like, damn it, you're the patient right after the anal leakage guy. He's like, oh man, I need a new job, or at least go to a new area that doesn't have insect-controlling witches. The doctor's like, well, yeah, you do have a bunch of boils. It's pretty disgusting. I guess I could lance them. I could try doing that. And the doctor grabs his lancing tool and he heats it up. He walks over to you and he presses it right against the biggest boil. The one on your arm, the first one, and he pokes it. And a milky white pus begins to drip down your arm as a dozen bugs crawl out of the boil. And as you look at it in horror, you're just staring at it, you're like, oh my god! You feel all the boils begin to pop all over your body. Sound like Jiffy Pop. Some kids come in, they're like, yep. So who's making popcorn? You're all pus is shooting on their faces. And each time a boil pops, more and more insects spill out from underneath your skin, covered in milky, infectious liquid. You're screaming. More boils popping. Now, luckily you don't die. You're just covered in insects. And then, take a garden hose, you can wash off all the infection and the insects just get washed down the drain. So that doesn't kill you, but I would argue it's way more disgusting to know that your body was the home for hundreds of bugs that were slowly growing inside of you. And you'd probably have a hard time. Like, who wouldn't move after that? Who would be like, well, I guess I gotta go back to work tomorrow. You have all these open wounds on you. I'm like, no, maybe you should take a couple days off the work of the salt mine, buddy. Maybe you should stay at home. I mean, that would be super disturbing. It would be very violating to know that your body was the host for hundreds of bugs. And again, it's one of those things that when you have these boils, people would go, oh, you should go to the doctor. But when insects burst out of your body, everyone goes, oh, yeah, I forgot. There's witches around here. Witches that specifically use bugs to cause boils. Why didn't I think about this? No modern medicine can help you if you're attacked by one of these sorcerers. You have to go to a Mambabarang to reverse it. Hopefully you don't go to the same one who cursed you. They're like, oh yes, I can totally reverse that. What, your payment? One strand of your hair. You're like, yeah, sure, whatever. It's interesting. Because in this culture, they are considered evil. You go to them if you want something done to somebody else, but they're also the only ones who can fix it. So it would be like you have a problem with a gang in your area, so you have to go talk to a rival gang to try to get it fixed, i.e. a shootout. And the people in the area, these aren't like herbalists, these aren't like shaman. These are people that you need to be afraid of. Aside from all of their ant-based or insect-based powers, they also have the ability to make poisons. They could do standard hexes just like any other shaman or medicine woman or anything like that, which they have the ability to control the weather. Which is interesting because that puts them on a completely different power level again. The average shaman, like today, I'm not talking about traditional shaman, because these guys operate today. This is not a old-timey thing. They started a long time ago, but there's still issues with them today. A shaman or a medicine woman or a witch today cannot control the weather. I mean, these guys are all operating on a different level. Like, if you had a shaman, medicine woman, herbalist, Mambabarang fight club, I'm going to tell you who comes out on top. But what's super fascinating, and we'll wrap it up like this, I find this so I knew nothing about this. I totally am curious about these guys. Kind of found it randomly. I think I was looking up something else in the Philippines, some other ghost or spirit. That's what was happening, yeah. So it turns out that today they are considered evil, but that wasn't always the case. Locally, they used to be heroes, warriors, guardians of the people. Because when the Spaniards came to the Philippines and began colonizing the area, the indigenous population did not have the weaponry to fight back. So who did they turn to? The Mambabarangs. And these were their healers. They also were adepts at bug magic, but they didn't use it to torment their own people. In fact, when the Spaniards showed up, they used these bugs, all of the things I described, to attack the invaders. You're on a boat all the way from Spain, you get to the Philippines, you're ready to take over and put the Queen's flag in the country, and the next thing you know, half your men have butt bugs. Some of them are clawing their eyeballs out because they believe there are worms deep in their eye sockets, while other men vomit violently, and instead of half-eaten food, a thick sludge of blood, guts, and black beetles pours out of their throat. The Mambabarang used their powers to try to fight back the Spaniards. And even after that, because it wasn't completely successful, obviously Spanish did end up colonizing the Philippines, but even after that, for quite a time after that, the Mambabarangs were still considered heroes and people you would go to if you needed help. Help with things that medicine just couldn't figure out. Especially back then, you would have had herbal and magical remedies that were better than the medicine available at the time, for sure. But something changed. And there's not a specific event that's listed. They don't even know exactly when the time was. But the story says, after the Spaniards took over, the Mambabarang still continued to do good for their community, for their fellow countrymen. But over time, some of them began to become corrupted and began using their power for personal gain. Some of the Mambabarang became corrupted and turned evil, and then more followed, and then more after that. To this point, they're all considered evil. Even the one that cures you, because you have all these boils, they're curing you for money, not because they are trying to help you out, not because they see someone in need. They're curing you for one reason only: money. And they would just as easily have been the one to cast the curse on you in the first place if someone had paid them to do that. It's very fascinating, right? They went from folk heroes really fighting against the conquistadors to becoming a menace in their own community. Again, a very, very real life story. We see that same thing play out in real life. Just yesterday I was talking about the Cholos. How that originally started as a racial slur, but then it became a term that was taken back by the community. It was young Hispanic men saying, we want to uplift our community. We want to make these Hispanic neighborhoods that we live in the United States vibrant. We want to make them safe. We want to make them a piece of Mexico and a piece of America and combine them. We want to be the protectors of our neighborhood. And the people who lived in the neighborhoods were like, oh, this is totally awesome. We have these young guys taking pride in their heritage and taking pride in their community and making it safe. As gang violence began to start up in other parts of the inner city, in these Hispanic communities, the Cholos, is what they called themselves, would protect their area. But over time, one after another, turned to gang violence instead. Making money, selling drugs. Not about protecting your neighborhood as much as it was protecting your territory from rival drug dealers. And that story plays out all over the world. You start off with really, really, really good intentions. The Crips were the exact same way. It was a community, it was like a youth community group. They said, we need to uplift the people in our community. Then it becomes a violent street gang. It's very interesting. And so again, we have this story about these witches in the Philippines that have the ability to perform this magic that follows a very realistic story we've seen play out all over the world. You either die a hero or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain. It's a true statement. We see it happening all over the world. These two stories, I actually didn't really plan for them to go together, the dog one and this one. But I think they were almost destined to go together because telling them back to back, it's really interesting. They sound completely off the wall, but they might actually be the most realistic stories we've covered. I don't want to say ever, because all this stuff we cover, true crime, like stuff's way more realistic than that maniac who killed those 5 people. But you know what I mean? These stories sound so outlandish, but at their core, they have things that are so undeniably human and so undeniably real that you got to step back and go, there has to be something going on here. Because if you were making it up, you would have just made them villains from the beginning. Hideous people living in the woods, always preying on the young. No, they used to be great people, but they were corrupted somehow until now they're feared by their countrymen. The same ones that centuries ago they fought to protect. DeadRabbitRadio@gmail.com is going to be our email address. You can also hit us up at Facebook.com/DeadRabbitRadio. TikTok is @DeadRabbitRadio. Dead Rabbit Radio is the daily paranormal, conspiracy, and true crime podcast. You don't have to listen to it every day. I'm glad you listened to it today. Have a great weekend.